1450 KMMS, 1340 KPRK. My name is Chris Griffin, on the telephone from San Francisco, California. A one-time Grateful Dead publicist, authorized biographer for the band, a dear friend of mine, Mr. Dennis McNally. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning.
Your latest book, Jerry on Jerry, I have to say, you've accomplished something here, my friend.
Well, it's so funny because I completely missed it. When I finished writing the Grateful Dead book, A Long Strange Trip, which Lord knows is now 13 years ago, I put everything in a box, and I thought I was done. And even though when I did it, I knew that there had been wonderful material in the interviews I did with Jerry that just didn't fit into a history of the Grateful Dead. He'd go on these side tangents, and I will say that I was smart enough not to say, "Oh no, Garcia, get back to the point," and enjoy the side tangents. But then I sent everything to the archives and forgot about it. And a couple of years back, the folks from the estate, said that they had been going into the archives looking for things, as they put it, that would allow people to get a sense of Jerry directly without intermediaries. Filters made by editors. And they went to the archives, and Nick Merriweather there said, "Well, we've got these tapes," and they started listening to the tapes of the interviews I had done, and they went, "This is what we want." So they saw the value, really. As soon as I saw it, I went, "Oh, gee, how did I miss that?" But at any rate, they reminded me of it, and so they asked me to edit it as lightly as humanly possible, which I did, and Bob's your uncle.
And these are the unreleased interviews, the unpublished Jerry Garcia interviews you conducted with him, starting in 73, several conversations in 84, and then again in 86. The one thing that I walked away from it, I want to get this right, because there's such a humanity in totality of it all.
I got a chance to, and you get it in the tapes. He invited me to be his biographer because I had written this book about Kerouac, and Kerouac was really his icon and his role model, and he was important to Jerry. So Jerry trusted me because of that. So we related completely as partners, but really that's the way he was with everybody. It just shows more in this because there was more time and more opportunity to get the full flavor of his personality. But that was the whole point of Jerry Garcia. His playing and his talking, which were his two favorite things to do, were both conversational. That is to say, they were about an exchange, not about him selling something, which is the way most celebrity interviews are. They're hustling some merch, and not Jerry. And he and all of that, I've come to realize, really kind of relates to on some fundamental levels to the acid tests, which were one of the fundamental experiences of his life, in which the Grateful Dead weren't performing per se; they weren't the entertainment. The room, everybody in the room was the entertainment. They were just the soundtrack, and some pinch of that stayed with him on every level for the rest of his life. Even when he was playing to 50,000 people, high up on a stage in a giant stadium or something. The fact is that he regarded the audience not as, these people he was bestowing his art upon, but as partners in some kind of quest. And he really took that seriously, and it was important. And that applied even to, rambling about what it was like to play in between The Who and Jimi Hendrix at Monterey Pop. He thought you'd be interested in this story, so he told it. It wasn't like he was taking himself very seriously.
1450 KMMS, 1340 KPRK. On the phone with me, Dennis McNally, a noted author. His latest book is Jerry on Jerry, the unpublished Jerry Garcia interviews. And the one thing that I've taken from it since I've read it cover to cover now and started it again is the Jerry's view on, because I compartmentalize my thoughts on music and my thoughts on literature and my thoughts on visual art or spoken word or any creative endeavor. I seem to have a compartment in my mind, but taking away from this book, it was a continuum for Jerry, and music wasn't different than what the Beats were doing with spoken word or the violence of the Who or Jimi Hendrix.
No, this is true. I mean, he gets into a wonderful conversation about comparing the way a Grateful Dead show would evolve and the way his playing would evolve in a solo with Golden Gate Park, with how literally in Golden Gate Park you start out and it's sort of pastoral and you could almost see some sheep grazing on the lawn, and then you get into a Wild West scene with the buffalo, and then the next scene is it's almost prehistoric, and then these giant ferns, and then on and on and on and on, he thought that way. And the thing is, it's very interesting because of course this project, these are two books. There's the book, which in print, and which you can read obviously, and which is a very interesting approach, and also because it comes accompanied with wonderful snapshots and family, sort of Mountain Girl and Trixie, his widow and daughters, I think Annabelle too. They all dug through the archives, their personal archives, and found these wonderful old family snapshots, and also a lot of art of Jerry's. So you get a presentation of the words and the visuals. And then there's also the audiobook, which is the actual tapes, so where you get to listen to Jerry. So, I mean, it's a toss-up how you like to, make the approach. I must say that for people have, because they called it an audio book, people have keep coming up to me and saying, well, who did you get to read Jerry? And I go, well, crazy? I mean, he's a very funny guy and very smart. Why would we have somebody else read Jerry? And I've just come to realize when people hear audio book, they think of somebody reading a novel or something. But this is in fact the tapes, listening to Jerry. So just to make that clear, he moves seamlessly from the movies to Lenny Bruce to LSD to Neil Cassidy to literature to all kinds of musicians. He talks about various different kinds of musicians in the course of both memories of events he was at, to being just being a plain fan and standing in the audience and going bananas for this one particular bluegrass fiddler that he just spectacularly loved.
And none of it was outside of it because, many people make up, and there's jokes about the Grateful Dead and the acid tests, but it was all part of the experience of life.
Yep. That's just the way he lived it. He didn't, as you say, he did not make a lot of distinctions on that level.
It's 1450 KMMS, 1340 KPRK, and whether it's his music, well, with the music of Jerry Garcia, there's a singular vision. When Jerry Garcia is playing the guitar. If you look at his visual work, his visual art, there's a singular vision. You know that you're looking at a Garcia, and once you recognize that, you can recognize all his work. Is that sort of what Jerry was about, and you played in the sandbox if you understood or picked up on that wave of his vision?
I guess, I mean, I never put it in those terms. He was just there. I mean, literally, there's a term in Zen called being present, and Jerry was very present, and very comfortable in his own skin and what was going on, and he enjoyed himself. I certainly was around him when he was clearly in not a great mood. And sometimes it was transient, sometimes it was, more enduring. But fortunately for me, he managed to, realign his forces anytime he did an interview. There was never a time when I didn't get a great interview out of him, where and sometimes there are people that you would go, next time it'll be better. This was just, I go and I get this, great material, and then I go home. It was pretty foolproof.